what we're trying to do today is to work together and try to come up with tips and solutions for parents, particularly parents who might not be fluent in French, but with children in French dual language programs. Um, and we'll be hearing from some of the parents here and how they've been coping with not only having children in French dual language programs, but also what's happening now with all this remote learning and hybrid systems where actually parents have become teachers to some extent. But so we'll be hearing also from educators, professionals who have been working in dual language programs for a long time, and they'll be guiding us and offering us some tips and advice also. So what I've asked everyone to do is to also copy and paste a few links and tips and resources in the chat box, which hopefully will build up as we go along in this conversation, and then we'll be able to share the result of this collective effort later on the conference website, as long as you all agree. And also, if you're watching, feel free to post your questions and add your resources in the chat box as well. And I'll be watching as well and asking the questions. We'll open it up for questions later on. But first, I want to ask our panelists to open their videos and their microphones so that you can see them and hear them. And they'll introduce themselves very quickly. And then after that, we'll be hearing from all of them again. So we'll in no particular order. Well, let's try with Agnes. Could you say a few words about yourself and where you're located?
Hello, my name is Agnes Ndiaye-Tunkara. I'm in New York. I'm the coordinator of the French Heritage Language Program, and I'm also the mother of 3 children, one in middle school, one in high school. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Fabrice.
Marine?
Hi, I'm Marie Boutillon. I'm a dual language immersion consultant. I'm typically based in Georgia, but right now I'm in Paris.
Sari?
Hi, my name is Sari Sherwood. I'm in Glendale, California. I have 2 boys in language immersion at Benjamin Franklin Magnet. I'm a 4th and a 6th grader, and both have been there since kinder, and we are a non-French speaking family.
Erika?
Hi, good evening. My name is Erica Young. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I have 3 children, a kindergartner, 4th grader, and 6th grader, who have all been in a DLP since kindergarten. And my husband is the French speaker a little bit, but I'm the homework helper. So I've learned a lot along the way too.
Marine?
Hi everyone, my name is Marine. I'm the founder of Fila Flamme and the president of the Federation of Flamme USA. It's a network of Flamme organization throughout the USA for French-speaking kids from pre-K to high school. We're trying to help them keep their French, and I have also 2 teens that I'm trying to keep bilingual, and I'm really glad to be here today.
Very good. Vanessa?
Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Handel-Ginanya. I am the founder of VHG Group, bilingual French daycares and preschools in Manhattan, and now soon to be in Brooklyn. I am also, and most importantly, a mother of 4 kids. And so I hear you all moms, and we're suffering together, but I'm here to help and advise in any way I can regarding early childhood.
Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Fortin. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the parent of 3 children, a 6th grader, 3rd grader, and pre-K. My husband is French speaking and I'm not, but I'm also the homework helper. So that's where we are.
Crystal?
Hi, my name is Crystal Thompson and I'm in Carefree, Arizona. I have two kids. One is a fourth grader in a French immersion, and I have a senior in high school who went through the same district in the Spanish immersion. And neither my husband nor I are fluent in either language. So it's, this is a pleasure to hear some strategies for helping them.
Brian?
Hi, my name is Brian Zager. I'm a principal of Lafayette Academy. It's a middle school French new language program on the Upper West Side in the New York City Department of Education. About 50% of the school is in the French new language program, and we're looking to expand into a high school soon. So we create a full track from elementary to high school in the dual language program.
Cody?
Hi, how is everyone? I'm Cody Hunley. I'm in South Louisiana in Lafayette. I have two children, 4 and 6. They're both in the French immersion program here. We have several schools. Our school is actually the only school in the city that is strictly French immersion, no English curriculum. My 4-year-old's in the pre-K program and my 6-year-old's in the first grade program.
Evelyn?
Hi there. Sorry, I was a little late today. Hope everyone's doing okay. My name is Evelyn Lolis. I'm the principal at PS 84, the Upper West Side in New York City. And we have 2 dual language programs. And one of them is a French dual language program with 2 sections on every grade from kindergarten to 5th grade. And the dual language program has been around since 2008. And we're quite popular and really proud of our program.
Excellent. So I've asked Mary Bouteillon to give us the introductory presentation to get us started, and then after we listen to Mary, we'll go to what parents have to say about this situation. So Mary, can you get us going with this topic?
There we go. Hi, everybody. I'm Marie. So I work with a lot of dual language schools across the country, and the advantage to that is I get to learn a lot about what everybody's doing. And so I'm going to share some of the best practices that have helped students. And so these are tips that can definitely be implemented by both parents and teachers. So the very first thing I want you to know is that you have to really think visuals, visuals, visuals. Everything that I tell our teachers is that language learners are visual learners. That's how they learn. So think beyond the laptop. That's where I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you to think first about what could yield to the students' independence. What is it that we could do that would build their independence so that they get control back over the situation? So one of the easy things that's always available in a classroom is a poster that says, can I go to the bathroom? Or can I go look for blah, blah, blah in my backpack? Or something like that. There are always these charts that are around in the schools. So this is a chart that I've seen, a type of chart I've seen posted in students' areas. Some students have it on a desk, other students have it on a wall. It could also be in a binder. These are some other ones. So the green says, oui, j'ai compris. Yes, I understand. And then the other ones are interesting. The first one relates to technology. Je n'arrive pas à means I cannot, and then, or I'm not able to turn on, unmute or mute or open a document or see the video, whatever it is. So that's also important to keep in mind, is to build independence. We need to build technological independence, and you need to understand that activer le son, couper le son, mute, unmute, those are not words they knew pre-2020. So no matter how long your child has been in the program, you definitely want to think about, are we teaching them at home some technological vocabulary and allowing them to use it? I don't understand is the next sentence in red. And pouvez-vous répéter? Could you please repeat? So This last sentence, I cannot say enough how important it is for the students to know how to say it because of the internet dropping, the teacher's sound dropping, a student saying something while the teacher is speaking. Pouvez-vous répéter? Could you please repeat? That is something very important for students to be empowered to say today. So this next piece is something that a teacher shared with me. It was the power of the checklist. Basically, she has a running checklist in her classroom, and the students now have this checklist on the surface, whether it's the dining room table, their bedroom table, whatever it is. They have this right next to them. I have a pencil, my notebook, paper, my homework, my headphones. And basically, they're not allowed to turn on Zoom until they have all of these things checked off and they're ready to go. You might want to add other things depending on what your child needs. It could be dry erase markers, dry erase board. It really depends on the teacher, but having a checklist allows them to come organized, and we do have to help them with that. So this is the other thing that this teacher has really been encouraging parents to invest in, is something to keep things organized. This can be a basket, it can be a bin, it could be anything that would keep the students organized. So your teachers produce a gazillion visuals every single day, and they spend hours making those visuals. So this is me with my daughter, teaching her how to read and write. I say print out the charts that those teachers have. Ask them for those charts, the sight words, anything that they have. Ask them to really share those with you so that you can actually print them and post them. Students have this ability to memorize the space around them, and in class, they might be in the middle of, let's say, a state test, and all the walls are covered up or all the charts have been taken down, and yet they will look back at where a particular chart was and remember exactly what was on that chart. Charts are very important for your students right now. So the problem is when the teacher is sharing them online, then they hit click and the chart goes bye-bye, and that's it. So really, really ask for those charts, whether you leave them on a website somewhere or you actually print them out. I can't say that enough. This is going to seem very, very normal to you, but routines are very important. And what you see here in light blue is the time that your students need to have away from the computer as much as possible. So this can be breakfast, playtime, lunch, again, playtime. Really build that in as much as you can. And that makes a big difference in their ability to actually stay focused all of this time. And these are ways that I would like you to consider to be encouraging. I'm sure you're encouraging. I'm not talking down at you. I have a daughter and she is very challenging right now. But here are ways to be encouraging. So I saw how you asked for your teacher's help. That's a really great thing, to be able to ask for a teacher's help. I saw how you turned on the screen all by yourself. So this is obviously an issue for the little ones. I saw how you submitted your homework on time. That's a big bonus. I saw how you remembered that you had to blah, 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 bring the dry erase board, bring your project, bring whatever it is. I saw how you set an alarm to be back on time. So what you want to do is, when you encourage, you want to encourage the behavior. Not the fait accompli, not the not what resulted of it, but really the behavior that will make them a better learner on time. So online, I mean. So this is about, I saw how you did something. And then you want to reach out to teachers. This is going to sound very obvious, but they really want to help. So I had a friend of mine who has a kindergartner, brilliant kindergartner, who basically decided on day one of school that she was not going to show up to school. she was going to leave the computer on and walk away from the computer. And she played and played and played right next to the computer. And the mom just tried everything. And finally, she reached out to the teacher, and the teacher said, "I'm so glad you reached out to me. Here's what we're going to do." And she had a game plan. And so I want you to really think about how these teachers have been through this before in the spring, and that has equipped many of them to deal with this situation. So nothing's perfect, and we may not solve everything, but they may be able to provide you with a functioning environment. So I wanted to share just a few tips to launch us, but that's it. That's it for me from Paris. So thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to let Fabrice take the floor back.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary. This was perfect. Let's go to our parents and hear what are their strategies and challenges, and also how do they respond to what you just shown. Maybe Erica, do you want to start this, and then we'll go to Sari, and then we have Crystal, Cody, and Allison. Erica.
Hi, great. One of the things I have found most helpful as a parent, I feel like we all know we say like the same 10 things over and over and over a day. You know, are you ready? Let's go. Are you hungry? Where is your bag? And so I learned all of those phrases in French, and I would print them out and have them for myself, and just try to always have that be one of our main modes, at least like those 10 or 15 statements we could always do in French. And I have found that to be extremely helpful. I laugh. Our favorite phrase for me is always "je ne sais pas," you know, when they're like, "What's for dinner? Where are we going?" You know, and so they've learned that one pretty quick. But we definitely did that, you know, "tu es prête?" You know, "allons-y à l'école," and just trying to really reinforce some of those phrases has been really helpful in our household. And then, I mean, I grew up going to Catholic school, and every now and then, I'm also a teacher myself. I do just love the rote practice of just, especially when they were learning verbs. I feel like it was kind of tricky, you know, remembering where the accents went, or even remembering all the endings. And sometimes for my older daughter, it didn't work as much as for my son, but I would just have him write them 10 times. Just writing them, you know, again, as Marie was saying, like that mind connection of like seeing the word in print and then you writing the word in print, that mind handwriting connection has been very helpful. So we do a lot of that sometimes. You know, if we knew they'd have a test coming up, we would just write the word 10 times, and then just like that morning quiz while they're eating breakfast, and then trying to use those words, even if it was kind of like a mix of French and English, you know, even if we were, you know, doing aller, it would be like, you know, je vais, you know, to the store, even if we couldn't say the whole sentence, just again, using that verb, whatever verb they were studying, trying to really use that one verb a lot in our daily conversation, even if we couldn't say the whole sentence in French. So those have been some things that have been pretty successful in our household.
Thank you. Sari.
Hi, good afternoon. So a few things have been really key this year, and then some things were really key earlier on. I think key this year, we have these wonderful teachers this year, but we have an amazingly supportive principal who is incredibly helpful at facilitating solutions. But the game changer for us this year has been office hours, sending the children to that small window of time every day. It's like 30 minutes every day that the teachers are available to ask questions. It was now, speaking earlier on, it was the earliest teacher, our oldest son's kindergarten teacher, who might be here, I don't know, Valerie's son. She sent home these, I guess, ebooks on that we read on the iPad that explained how to read each letter and walked each child how to read each letter and how to write each letter capital, lowercase, in print and in script, starting in kindergarten. After kindergarten, it wasn't long, probably second or third grade. We did have to invest in things like homework, a homework club, an after school club, and now a tutor. We have a tutor every week. It is rather expensive. You know, it's probably $100 to $200 a week to tutor both boys. In terms of the other challenge we've had is just logistics. We're not in a huge house. The boys are in one room with my husband, and just the talking amongst each other. My husband is working, I'm working. gets picked up on the microphones, and sometimes the teachers can't hear the child, and the child gets frustrated. Marie, in speaking about your presentation about visuals, one of the challenges we had very early on, we have a child that is significantly colorblind, and not knowing the language was a huge challenge for him because he could not see the difference between like red and green or blue and yellow, and everything is color coded in kindergarten. So we had to practice stuff like that with him at home. The challenge of being on screen is mostly a challenge for my older son. My older son is on the autism spectrum, and the screen is like the worst thing in the world for him, but it is requirement. They're both actually thriving very well at home. I'm surprised how well they're both doing. They both probably prefer to be at home, but they're doing really, really well. And then the only other challenge has been just keeping it up during the summer months. We've done the tutor during the summer months. This year we did Alliance Française, and they did a class for like 5 or 6 weeks. And now they're doing a book club that Valerie's son had put together. So it's just encouraging them to, to stay up and keep reading. But the best investment my husband and I did was definitely noise canceling headphones. That's
Excellent.
been a game changer.
Crystal.
Sure. So I think the difference maybe from what I've heard and my situation is that my kids have been in person this year. And I think the first month they were remote learning, but because of the age difference of my kids, one being a senior in high school and the other being a 4th grader, they have really different needs. And I would say with the senior, not so much this year, but last year, trying to get her focused on the end game, getting that certificate of biliteracy was the thing that really kept her in the program and wanting to be better at her language, which is Spanish. But for my 4th grader, I think the biggest thing for him is he's really into arts. And so focusing on the culture of the French is the thing that gets him engaged. So I liked in the chat, I saw some recommendations for finding cartoons or movies in French. And I think that he really enjoys that, and that works for him. It wouldn't have worked so much maybe for my daughter because she wasn't as much focused on that, but for him, it's really beneficial.
Cody.
Hi, yeah, no, same thing. Actually, luckily, because my children are 4 and 6, remote learning, that would have been a disaster. So very happy that they've been face-to-face since the beginning, actually in September, and have been, of course, healthy, which is we're very grateful for. But so being this young and pre-K, I mean, obviously we work together and like repeating different things, basic terms, colors, months, days, numbers, like all that good stuff. But as far as like going much deeper than that, I mean, maybe, we'll do like the French apps and some French shows. But other than that, I am actually totally looking for suggestions on how to enhance like just learning at home. Because the biggest challenge I've had so far with Amelia, who's my 1st grader, they're learning math, addition and subtraction, and the instructions are in French, which I do speak a little bit of French. We live in a very French, well, mostly Francophone culture in South Louisiana here. So it's not foreign to her, kind of a joke. But so it's not, she's not unknown to like a lot of the familiarities of like French words. So we work on those things, but it's still hard for me to read the instructions of like math work and really understand what it means, because not only are they doing Common Core, it's also in French. So I'm totally confused on how to work the problems. And the teachers have worked with me one-on-one on like making sure that they make a very clear answer to the problem, if that makes sense. Because we get home, we get sent home worksheets where they've worked on them, but sometimes they're incorrect. And I'm like, well, I don't know how to fix it if I don't know the right way to look at it. So I worked with the teacher and like making sure that we were very clear, like what's the right way of solving the problem, because we weren't necessarily able to read the instructions or even understand Common Core for that issue. So we are working through that right now. But like I said, this young, I'm grateful to hear y'all's suggestions. So of course, kind of improve over the years, because we definitely intend on keeping them in the program, until high school. So.
Allison.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. So in terms of helping my children, I use a lot of Google Translate. I have a dictionary that I keep close by all the time. And those are the things that have helped with the homework. But we watch a lot of videos. So they get a lot of French language through television, and they get it in the house as well. But those are the things that have helped me with the homework part.
So, I mean, some of the things we hear, definitely it works for certain ages, definitely less for younger kids. And I can see it at home with my younger ones. So she's ready to throw out the computer out the window, but I'm sure you all feel the same. So let's hear from the pros and the kinds of tips and suggestions, particularly with the younger ones, that we may get from you. Let's start with Vanessa and then Virgin.
Hi, everyone, again. So first thing, my experience is in early childhood, as I mentioned, and I also have a 2-year-old daughter, and therefore I know firsthand that she needs help, and she, more than the older kids, they need more attention. So today I want to give some suggestions that I apply at home, and for kids between 2 and 4 years old. I know the most challenging part is, before the language, is getting them to become more independent and getting them to be more focused on different things. So I have a few things I would like to suggest. First, we can try to bring school at home. And to do that, you can think about ways to create little centers for your kids. And as Marie said in her slideshow, visuals are extremely important. So let's try to make them a bit more independent, but also let's do that by helping them speak French. So the idea is to kind of create little centers. So you may have a puzzle center, you can have a library center, a writing center for those who are learning to trace and things like that. So that while you're working and you're on your Zoom calls, they can also be working individually. But you also have visuals that say library, bibliothèque, and things like that, so that there are things that they remember and they can keep practicing. One thing also is having lunch Zoom play dates with their friends, and try to integrate more francophones in that lunch date. It helps them with socialization, and they can share artworks and art projects and talk about colors and things like that. For younger kids, it's definitely more challenging, but it helps parents to learn some vocabulary and the kids to practice. Furthermore, we have, of course, they have Zooms, but they have screen time, but it's also okay for them to watch a bit of YouTube. You know, there are YouTube videos that are really great. Les Titounis, for example, my daughter loves them. Not only are they good for the kids because they have a lot of visuals while they sing those songs, but they're good for parents because a lot of them have the wording while they sing. So parents can practice along and can really match the visuals to the language. So all of that is really helpful for kids. There's so much more I could talk about, but one other thing I've noticed that was really helpful when our schools went remote in March, our teachers, what they did is they recorded themselves doing circle time. So definitely ask your teachers if they can do a circle time and they can do a read aloud. It can be a 10-minute video. They'll read the book to your child, and your child has that connection to the teacher, and it's really helpful for them to connect with the teacher and the book because they actually sit down and listen. And that same teacher, you can ask them to have comprehensive questions that you can follow up with. They can be in English and translated in French so that you can still engage with your child and have that conversation. It helps you learn some French and definitely helps develop language for your children. I could go on and on, but I know I'm limited.
but please post those things in the box as well so that we can follow what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Virgil, go ahead.
Unmute
Virgil,
yourself.
I think you're on mute, Virgil.
Thank you.
Start over.
I just add a little bit to what the wonderful things Vanessa just said, and maybe she didn't have time to say. So a lot of things about routine. What's very important about routine is that the stress level of the family goes down, and to be flexible with your routine, but kind of have the same routine every day, just like they have the same routine every day at school. And so that's very important, just to set up the groundwork for the children and for yourself. The other thing is to think in your routine to have, for the children, screen time alone, screen time together, being interactive with other kids, and also for the parents to think of having, screen time as a family and screen time alone. So because all those things are important, and that's for every age, I think it's to respect everybody's intimacy. Also, considering screen exists, they're part of their life, especially if we go back in confinement. The other thing that I would say is to share the learning. That means all the teachers need to pass down their science to the parents, and understand that, for example, we have a very little trick at school when we're remote, is that we give a certain set of questions to the parents that they're not supposed to answer. And so that way, the children can, maybe take a few days to answer the questions. That's okay. And so then it's to help parents become a bit more teachers on those days and enjoy it. And it's really an enjoyment for the parents to find themes that not only interest the children, but interest the parents as well. The other thing is to think of the time where the children are interactive on the screens versus the time where they're just listening to a recording. So we did a whole thing, like Vanessa was mentioning, that we created a Petit TV, and we had all tons of recordings. The kids loved it. But I think it's very important, even if it's short periods of time, to have really interactive moments, so where you forget about the screen. So I think, for if there's other teachers here listening, to have this in mind, like when you're on Zoom, nobody is in his PJs eating breakfast. Like, this is not TV. This is it. This is class. This is fun. This is interactive. We're going to learn, and make it as short as necessary, but make sure that the short time you have, it's like this. It's productive. It's fun and engaging.
Well said.
Thank you. From the little ones, we're now moving to elementary school. What's the situation there? Dr. Lollis, do you want to take this on? I know you want to share an app as well. Sorry, let's see if you can unmute. Can you unmute?
Yes, I'm good now.
Good, yeah.
Can you hear me now? Good. Okay, so, well, our age group at PS84 is kindergarten to 5th grade, and tagging along and agreeing with some of the people that have already spoken. Social interaction, as we know, is the key to learning a new language. The children will learn best from their peers. So on that note, it's very important to have Zoom time, Zoom play dates, virtual play dates. And actually what our school has done is we created hubs of students so that their programming is the same. The parents communicated to us that they take care of one another, and they babysit each other's children. So when the children are learning remotely, they're still together in a hub. And some of them go to a private, let's say, school where they're supported, and some of them just go to other students' homes. So the kids are always together, and there's like no cross-contamination. But keeping that in mind, to always create those opportunities for children to communicate with one another, especially if they're Anglophones, the only way that they're really going to retain at least what they've learned the years prior, when we were able to be fully immersed every day together, is to create those opportunities. So reach out, make those parent connections, and insist on that time with children being with one another. The other thing I want to share is just some other pointers. Music, as we know, is the key to learning language, and repetition is an educational modality that we use even in special education. So music, it's maybe less screen time, but it immerses the child in the language. And the other thing I want to bring out, and this is screen time, there are online adaptive programs like Duolingo or Lalilo that also could supplement especially the Anglophones I'm thinking about. You want to limit that, but if it's even on the go, right? You could even put it on your cell phone, and because you don't want a long period of time where your child is not being exposed to the foreign language. But the only thing I could say now is, again, we're not in the same reality. And our hopes here, at least PSA 84, is, I know we're teaching the concepts in English, the majority in English, but we're hoping that to maintain, and we're offering language for the retention of the language. And hopefully the children could transfer concepts. So one of the challenging things we asked to do for children is to create perhaps charts at home where they learn concepts in English and challenge themselves to at least do a T-chart and then write or do the research to find out what is the equivalent, the foreign language equivalent of the concepts they're learning. And that's kind of doing more enrichment work or endeavoring with each other to find out how they could transfer that knowledge. There are a plethora of online options. They're engaging and interactive. I wanted to share with you, our teachers have basically, I guess I could share my screen, right? Let's see how I could do that. Is that enabled? I hope so. Yep, great. Okay, and hopefully you could all see this. So we have, like I said, there's Duolingo, Lalilo, there's Hello World, but we have a Padlet that our teachers have created. And it's pretty amazing. And there's a big menu. So we have K-2 literacy resources. And I'll be more than happy to share. And Fabrice, you could just let me know, but educational videos, books that they can read, magazine, podcasts, right? And read alouds. So, and then educational videos, but just that full immersion of listening and talking. And then again, the socialization component is going to be critical. And that's all I have to share. I guess I could just put all my pointers in the chat. We'll get through this.
For now, you're sharing me. That's what I see on my computer, but I don't mind being shared.
Sorry.
Marine, in Philadelphia, how are things?
Things are, yeah, we're still getting there. First and foremost, I just wanted to thank all the teachers, and especially language teachers, who did an amazing job these past 8 months. It was sometimes a miracle, but they did an amazing job because they were sharing tips like we are doing today. The solidarity between all of them were fantastic. And so I'm sharing about, the same conclusions. We needed to do a little bit differently. The teachers had to switch to an online platform and change a little bit the way they were teaching. And we were talking earlier about videos. Yes, teachers, especially when they want to do the asynchronous class system, they wanted to tape themselves, record themselves, giving the notion. So when they're together online, either the full group or using breakout rooms, because indeed it's better, it's more efficient when the kids are together in very small groups. They were really trying to work together on that notion and going further. We're keeping the manuals, the paper manuals at home. It's nice to have that in their hands because we don't want either to have everything online on the screen. But sometimes they will do scavenger hunts. They need to have fun when they learn French. So we're doing scavenger hunts, we're doing quiz, we're using Kahoot, Padlets. A lot of these tools are used by the teachers. And for the parents, because the parents, we've been overburdened by all that virtual schooling. For all the fields, but especially for the language, it's even sometimes more difficult. So I think a key tool is also to have those one-on-one time, either with a teacher or somebody who's in charge of homework support. So especially for the parents who are non-native speakers, we can really help the students with their homework and to acquire those notions a little bit further. So online tools, we were talking about also reading, make it fun. So we're using a lot Story Player. It's a French software, but the teachers can record their voice reading those beautiful books. And even the grandparents, if you have a grandparent that is a French speaker, they can record themselves. And it's so nice. It's so nice to have a grandma or grandpa reading to them, hopefully every night. But we know it's tough sometimes. So yes, it's you need to make it fun. You need to make it engaging as much as you can. And we can do wonders, even if it's online, even if we're very, very tired by the online system.
We can also go back to books, right? Traditional books, paper. Marie, what do you think of all this?
Marie or Marine? Marie? Okay.
Marie.
So books are super important. So here's some ways that you really measure a student's language growth. One of them is by them producing language orally, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, but I want to talk about also their reading. And so here are some great tips to keep the students challenged and engaged in reading. One of them is to do book swaps. We call them in my circle livre échange. So it's like a book exchange, and you just exchange a ton of books that you have. The school may be able to do that, and if they're not able to do that, then I would make sure to contact other families and help set that up. Livre échange, beyond that, something that's really nice is having the students read their books out loud. So ways to record that is obviously how you hold them accountable. So Flipgrid is great. Google Voice is amazing. If they're not comfortable with that, there are a plethora of other ways that they can do that. You can also encourage them to read by reading, even if it's a little bit to you out loud, and then a little bit on their own. What you'll be able to measure is whether or not they have comprehension in the way that they read, right? Their fluency in their reading will help you measure quite a bit. Encourage them to go slow, but to be confident, and that will help them a lot. So reading is a great way to help them continue keeping up, what we call maintaining their French or their Spanish or Chinese or whatever language. But you really have to work on beyond receptive skill. Reading is still a receptive skill. It's one where you learn through someone else's words. Instead, you have to teach the students to produce. And so going back to Flipgrid, going back to Google Voice, those are great ways to produce. Other ways to produce language where the child is speaking out loud are talking to grandparents, talking to friends who speak the language, and having an activity organized. So right now we're in France because that was the safest place for our daughter to learn. Georgia is a different story. And so we moved here so we could give her an opportunity to learn. But her English has gone down the drain. So what do? We get in touch with the grandparents. We Zoom with them. We tell them exactly which books they should be reading because she'll get really interested. And we have our neighbors from upstairs who are also like her second set of grandparents who are like, well, what about us? And so they've been doing mandalas together and speaking English the whole time for 90 minutes for a 5-year-old. That's amazing. So you can really do a whole lot online still and be in what your child would think is playtime, and yet they're really producing language during that time. So think about it with friends, organizing something around a holiday, organizing something around a special day, like it was Children's Week not long ago, and organizing things around that. And then one last thing I want to add is in terms of production, we talk about writing production, and producing projects really gets the kids hooked. So this could be producing some kind of speech, producing something that's really important to them. And this could be done to be able to speak to someone in their community or someone outside of their community to share something that's happening to them. So for us, obviously in Georgia, there's a lot going on right now. So our kids are activists online. And I would really, really recommend having something important to talk about and reporting it out loud. So you write about it and then you make a speech. And that's a really big deal for those students to present. So those are some other ideas to help the kids produce language.
Thank you. Let's go quickly to the bigger kids with Agnes and Brian. Agnes, do you want to say a few words about the high school, middle school, and high schoolers in particular? And then Brian will follow up.
I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and a son who is now in college. We are from Senegal, so I speak French, but they, you know, French tends to be the language you only speak at home, and I'm trying really hard to maintain it. For the middle and the high schoolers, what I feel like get them motivated is to see that there is a connection to the real world. French in the classroom sounds boring, really hard, really rigorous. We watch the news, for example, every day, France 24, or TV5, we watch the news. And what they see is that French actually allow them to connect to different worlds. You know, they realize that French is spoken in different countries, and that's very concrete, and that speaks to them. The other aspect for the oldest one, and someone said it before, is a reward. You know, if you are able to have them take the seal of biliteracy or the global seal, it's an official recognition of their bilingualism. And that's actually something that can translate in the marketplace, you know, in the job, when they're looking for a job or in college. For the oldest one, I feel like that was key. The other thing we're doing is watching one movie. We pick a movie in French every week and we watch it together and then we talk about it. Social media, I kind of force them to follow someone in French in their field. You know, if you're interested in, I'm sure you can find a YouTuber in France and follow them. My youngest, my middle schooler, is talking to a cousin who doesn't speak English, so they have to communicate, and it forced them to speak French. And I also had them, and I'll put that in the chat, install on their phone an app from TV5 that's called TV5 Apprendre with TV5, and it's usually a small extract from a movie or news or a documentary on something, and they will find something that interests them. My middle schooler is into basketball. We found this interview of a French basketball player, and at first she didn't like the idea, but it's an app. And then she listened to the recording and she has to answer questions. And that's some of the things that we've been doing. So I guess at this age, the key is to find something that interests them and find authentic document online to help them progress.
Brian.
Hi. Yeah, I can talk from a school perspective as a middle school principal from the Department of Education. You know, when you get to be the middle school level, especially in the dual language program, it's more of a maintenance program than it is learning French. So the expectations we have of our kids are that they can pretty much by the 5th or 6th grade, you know, speak French, write in French, and you know, we look at the 4 major ways of kind of learning, which is reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So, you know, when it comes to, you know, this level, you know, we're not thinking too much of like Duolingo or other apps to kind of learn French. We have the expectations that the kids are kind of at some level proficient in the language. And so from our perspective, I guess, you know, the best advice I can give is to, you know, work with the schools that your kids are learning from. You know, so where we are at Lafayette Academy, you know, again, it's not learning how to speak French, it's that you're learning American history in full French immersion. You know, what the ELA program does at our schools, or the English program does at our schools, we follow in a French language arts capacity. So our kids are learning about nonfiction and fiction, personal narratives, all within like the French language. So, you know, I would say, just as my colleagues have said, social interaction is extremely important. We practice at Lafayette Academy to make sure that, number one, we're trying to provide videos for our kids to learn. One of the biggest things that we're finding is that kids are having difficulty if anybody's wearing a mask, because when they're, still in the process of learning French or being involved in the content in full French immersion, still the ability to see somebody's lips as they're speaking, as they're talking, while they're learning new words in their content areas are extremely important. So, we push the parents to join us on our live instruction and on our videos that we upload. But while we do hand out assignments that are for reading and for writing, working with your children and handing those in, seeing where any additional assistance could be, because we don't have the ability anymore to look over our children's shoulders and see if they're struggling with certain tenses, or to see where their block is and what they're trying to express. So just for additional and constant interaction with the kids about how and looking at their work. What we're realizing in the middle school era is also that there's a lot of kids that for some reason don't want to show their faces while they're learning. So we have a lot of live sessions, but similar to some of us, you'll just see the names of the kids and not the actual faces. And so, that provides us with a obstacle. Number one, seeing how they're pronunciating, or seeing if they're participating, seeing if they're actually putting pen to paper. But also for the kids that aren't participating or raising their hands, to make sure as parents that we are hearing them speak, and seeing how they're listening also to the French language and how they're interpreting what's being said. So, I mean, definitely socialization, but, working with the schools on what at the middle school level, for what is being asked of the student, and, just kind of being on top of the kids and what they're producing and what they're able to, or whether they're participating or not participating, because we just want them to keep hearing French and speaking French, and writing and reading, at a certain level. So, just to support the schools is something that we're looking at for in regards at the middle school level. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a few more minutes for questions and also for pasting links and resources in the chat book. I see it's been growing and growing and growing. Sari, you had a question about STEM resources. You want to ask the question?
Oh, I did get a response from Marie, but I was just wondering where we could find STEM resources in French.
You can find some at Teachers Pay Teachers. A lot of the Canadians create them.
Thank you.
Other questions, other comments, or even among our panelists?
I have a quick question, just about at the stage, learning to read. So my first grader, they're already kind of behind because we were pulled out of school early last year, and they're just kind of really getting comfortable with reading in English. Is there anybody that's have been through it so far, or Marie, have any suggestions on how I nurture? I mean, what do I need to do? Like at this point, she's just learning English. How do I combine both, or the French part?
Okay, so for students who are English native speakers, but have had the opportunity, I would say the privilege at this point, to be in the classroom for even a bit of time prior to being pulled, I would say you could introduce them to an online program. There's one that I've just come across that I really like, and right now the name escapes me because I'm horrible with names. But Corneille is the name. Here we go. Famous French author, that's all I can remember. It's a great app, and your children can start learning on there. But if they have not started reading yet in English, then please do not expose them yet to another code. You want to start with one code at a time, especially in their strongest language. That's the best way to do it. So Corneille is just phonics instruction. It won't teach them vocabulary. It won't teach them everything else that they will need to learn through the classroom, but it will give them literacy instruction in that language in a way that's fun, beautiful, and also research-based. So that's a great place to go look.
Just to add to that, I'd say, if there was one thing I feel really good about it as a parent is that I have two very strong readers. They can both read all day, all night, which is great. But I think the key to that was that we turned off the television. There is no television on a school night. It is only on non-school nights, like after 6 o'clock, maybe a little bit on Saturday morning, and we didn't have a video game until my oldest was 12. We just turned it off, and while that made them more dependent on us for reading, we certainly read to them a lot. It absolutely, especially for my oldest child, that's where he goes to like settle his mind, is in a book. It's constantly in a book.
Other comments? We have 3 minutes. All right. So we've done it in under 60 minutes. We were very good today. I want to thank you all for coming along. Oh, Jane, you're here.
All the time. It's great. It's been really wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on a Sunday, Sunday evening for New Yorkers, but in California it's still lunchtime. Also, I'll be copying, and you can copy the links and the resources in the chat room. We'll save them. We'll put them on the conference website, so you can always access them later, as well as the recording. We'll try to make this available. We won't close the Zoom room. We'll keep it open, no worry. And thank you all. Stay strong, stay safe, and parlez français. Au revoir.
Bye. Well done.